NBC News special report. Here's Kate Snow.
Good day, everyone. We're coming on the air with breaking news from Capitol Hill, where it appears that the House has just failed to elect a Speaker of the House for the new Congress during the first round of voting. It will be official once we hear the gavel. The current Speaker, Louisiana Republican Congressman Mike Johnson, was hoping to win re-election by locking up nearly all Republican votes, but Republicans have a razor-thin majority. Johnson could only afford to lose one vote from within his party. In the first vote, it appears right now that he lost 3 Republican votes. That means the House has not yet nominated a Speaker. It means no business can get done until they do that. Let's get right to our senior Capitol Hill correspondent, Garrett Hake. Garrett, the big question is what happens next?
Well, Kate, that's something of an open question right now. You pointed out that Johnson had almost no margin for error. This vote total, if it holds up right now, means he will have exceeded it. He could lose 1 vote. He has at this moment lost 3. But the vote remains open, and conversations are continuing on and off the floor. In fact, even around me in this hallway, about 20 feet from the House chamber, as Johnson and his allies try to determine what these holdout Republican members would like to see from him, what they want perhaps in exchange for their votes, or how they can get to yes, because no other work can be done by the House until a Speaker, whether it be Johnson or someone else, is elected. That fact has been Johnson's backstop in this process, with the ceremonial vote counting and certification of the Electoral College results expected and set to happen on Monday. That cannot go forward until there is a Speaker. Johnson has been reminding his conference time and time again that they were elected to get that work done, to begin the work of united Republican government that they were all brought here to Washington to do. And at this moment, he has 3 members of his conference who want someone else to lead that effort. One of them, Thomas Massie of Kentucky, had been clear from the start he would be a no vote, but the other 2 are something of a surprise. Ralph Norman of South Carolina had been coy yesterday about his support for Johnson, telling me that he trusted Johnson, but that he wasn't decided, didn't think he would be fully decided until the vote began. And Keith Self of Texas, who has really said nothing about this process, each voting for other members. For right now, the vote remains open as those conversations continue. If they can't reach an agreement, then we would have to have essentially a call for another vote to recess and go back to the drawing board and give these members a break. Or we could see this process remain open, or another option, go right into another round of balloting without any kind of sort of formal real end here or negotiations concluding that could yield the same results or perhaps a change depending on what's going on behind closed doors.
Garrett, our viewers might think they've heard this before. We have been here before, right? We've been through many rounds in the past. Talk about, there's no actual other candidate right now who's raised their hand to say, I want to be Speaker, right?
That's right, and in that way, this mirrors the Speaker election that ultimately produced Speaker Kevin McCarthy at the start of the last Congress. There it was clear that only McCarthy had the momentum and the votes necessarily banked, if you will, to get to a full majority of the House to become Speaker. That process, the horse trading that went on behind the scenes as McCarthy sought to pick off his detractors one by one, ultimately led to his downfall when he made the House ungovernable. And it was several months later that a small group of Republicans joined with Democrats to remove him from the speakership. Then we saw those rounds over several weeks of voting as different people did raise their hands coming forward to try to become the next Speaker. Johnson was ultimately chosen at the end of that process, in part because he had the fewest enemies. And I think that's probably still largely true right now. Even the folks who don't believe Johnson would do a particularly good job as Speaker tend to respect him, tend to think of him as a fairly savvy operator here, and not someone who has built up the kind of broken promises that ultimately undid Kevin McCarthy. Nevertheless, there's only really 2 ways this ends. With Johnson as Speaker or someone else, they cannot do anything else. And so he's got to figure out if he has the best chance of winning over these 3 holdouts, or at least 2 of the 3, or if someone else does. And that's a process that could take quite a bit of time.
And Garrett, we should point out that President-elect Trump has been vocally supportive of Mike Johnson, the Speaker.
That's right. He has been sort of spoken favorably about Johnson really for quite some time, endorsed him explicitly at the beginning of this week, and then again on camera on New Year's Eve, hosted Johnson at Mar-a-Lago on New Year's Day, and has subsequently been making calls on his behalf leading into the start of this vote. I'm curious to find out if Ralph Norman, one of the holdouts who I could see but could not reach in a part of the Capitol just shortly, a few feet from where I'm standing, who was on the phone a short time ago for quite a while, if he was on the phone with the president-elect, something I'm trying to figure out as we speak, Kate. What Donald Trump wants here is no small thing. I mean, this House majority, largely elected on his coattails, running on his agenda. He's been pretty vocal about wanting them to get to work. The irony here is you have essentially people who describe themselves as pro-Trump conservatives in every case voting against Trump's choice to be Speaker here today.
Well, let's, on that note, turn to our senior White House correspondent, Gabe Gutierrez, because he is near President-elect Trump's home in South Florida in Mar-a-Lago. Gabe, have you heard anything from the Trump transition team or from the president-elect himself?
Well, hi there, Kate. Well, we've reached out to the Trump transition team as this vote has unfolded. No response from them just yet. But the president-elect so far today, he's right now currently at his golf course in West Palm Beach. We have not heard from him on camera, as Garrett mentioned, since New Year's Eve when he threw his support behind Speaker Johnson. Garrett is right. The president-elect earlier this week, he really threw his support behind Johnson in that key endorsement. And look, this is being seen as a key test of party unity, and with this vote failing could be viewed as a major blow to President-elect Trump. But I think what it really serves as a reminder, Kate, is just how narrow this majority is in the House of Representatives and just how challenging all of this will be for the incoming Trump administration as it seeks to get its major priorities over the finish line over the next couple of months. As Garrett mentioned, though, the more urgent priority is on Monday. That's when Congress is set to certify those presidential election results, and right now we do not have a speaker. So we are trying to find out whether President-elect Trump is burning up those phone lines, trying to talk to those members of Congress to make sure that in this next round or in the next couple of hours to not drag out this drama. The president-elect this morning posted on social media. He posted saying that Mike Johnson was a great man. Then he reposted another video from Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia saying that no matter what reservations some more conservative members of the House, no matter what reservations they may have, in order to get Donald Trump's agenda over the finish line in the next couple of weeks and months, they need to vote for Mike Johnson. So again, the president-elect here in Palm Beach County are awaiting any comment from him with these unfolding developments, Kate.
All right, Gabe, appreciate that. Just for our viewers, we are waiting for the gavel officially to be hit where we'll know that this vote is final and official. But as of right now, the news is that the House appears to fail in re-electing Speaker Mike Johnson to that position. I want to go back to Garrett Haake. Garrett, I know you're probably actively trying to talk to members as well, but do we have any further guidance on whether they might start voting again anytime soon?
No, nothing official, Kate, but to be clear, the easiest option for the House is to go right into a next round of voting. That's sort of the way this system is designed. If this vote is gabbled closed, unless there's a vote to do something else, and again, the only real option is to adjourn, a next round of voting would start automatically. It's not clear that these three members who voted for someone other than Johnson would want to adjourn. So you may be in a situation where Johnson cannot get the votes necessary to do anything else but keep this process going, which could make this particularly grueling for him if the results are the same or worse as we go back through it. And looking at just the mechanics of how this is done, the alphabet here plays a role as members are called in alphabetical order to give their votes. If this result were to repeat itself, we wouldn't find out if there's a single no vote against Johnson until you get to the M's, half an hour plus into the vote counting. And so, that could, I suppose, be a positive. positive if it gives him some more time to whip, but it also means we could be in this space where we go right into another vote and we're stuck waiting around to know if anything is going to be different for quite some time.
Whip meaning round up support for his cause. Garrett, having covered Capitol Hill myself a long time ago, sometimes there's brinkmanship, right? Sometimes people vote a certain way so they can maybe try to win a favor or get something out of it. Is that possibly what happened with these three members?
It certainly is. I think, you know, if I'm going to break them out one by one, Thomas Massie has been clear for weeks that he was not going to vote for Mike Johnson. I don't think there's anything he wants. I don't think there's anything Johnson can give him. He's the immovable object here, if you will. Ralph Norman, I think, is a bit of a mystery here. He's aligned with the House Freedom Caucus. He's an anti-spending guy. He's been engaged in meetings and conversations with the Speaker as recently as yesterday afternoon. I think if there's anyone who Mike Johnson knows what he wants, it's probably Ralph Norman. Keith Self is a little bit of an X factor. He's a newer member up here. He's not as outspoken. It's not as clear to me what it is that he would want to be moved. The other possibility, Kate, here is that these members either collectively or individually wanted to make a point, that perhaps they will support Johnson on another ballot, but voting against him, at least on this first ballot, could serve as a reminder how tenuous his majority is and how he's going to have to listen to and perhaps acquiesce to some of these far-right members on every decision going forward. Because let's be clear, getting elected as Speaker may be the easiest thing Mike Johnson has to do if he wants to actually enact the agenda items that he and these other Republicans have run on.
Garrett, we've got about 30 seconds, but it doesn't seem like it's a good look right now for the Republican Party to have this happen.
Certainly not. Not the way you want to start Congress. In this micro level, members are here with their families, young children, spouses are all here. They want to celebrate their swearing in, kick things off on the right foot. On the macro level, as a big picture, this is the Republican Party is back in control of Washington, all of it on day one, and this is the result of their first vote, not how they want to start things off.
All right, Garrett Haake for us on Capitol Hill. Gabe Gutierrez was with us from Florida. Appreciate you. That concludes this NBC News special report. We will, of course, have much more straight ahead on NBC News Daily on our streaming network, NBC News Now. You can also find us at NBCnews.com by clicking Watch Live. A full wrap-up tonight on NBC Nightly News. I'm Kate Snow. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.